and welcome to this car pod.
I'm Kennan.
I'm Filippo.
Let's start with the news. First news story is this thing.
Do you know what this is?
It looks like a Renault R5. I imagine you're going to say it has 9 million horsepower and it's electric.
It is electric. It's a Renault R5 Turbo 3E. So a couple years ago, Renault said, we're going to rebuild the R5, which was a hot hatch, what was regular hatchback.
In the 80s.
And then the R5 Turbo was a hot hatch in turbos.
Okay.
Legend.
In the 80s. A legend, truly. They said we're going to do this. And then nobody believed them because it was at like an auto show. It's a concept car.
Yeah.
And then they built the R5, which is like a retro-inspired EV. And they have finally given details on what the Turbo 3E is, which is this wild version that they will produce 1,980 units of.
Are they actually going to build it?
Yes.
It's going to look like this and they're going to build this?
Yes, although they've said that it's going to be very customizable. The interior will be very customizable.
It's fully electric? How much
fully
power?
electric. It is 540-something horsepower. Rear-wheel drive, not all-wheel drive.
Wow. Like the
legitimately
OG?
notable. It has 2 motors, 1 in each wheel. And it's fully rear-wheel drive.
Wow.
And it's so
Does it do
cool.
the shifting like the Ioniq 5N?
I don't know.
If it does, this is the first desirable electric car.
It's desirable, period. Look at it.
It is cool as hell.
It's 540 horsepower. It weighs 3,200 pounds, which for an EV with 250 miles of range.
And 2 motors.
That's really light.
Yeah.
And it's like a true wild-looking hot hatch.
Yeah.
Like
it looks cool. It looks pretty true to the OG.
Yeah, it really does.
Under 3.5 seconds 0 to 60 is what they're quoting. 168 mile an hour top speed.
Unfortunately, what it will not do compared to the OG is try to kill you. I drove a Clio V6.
It's a rear-wheel drive 540 horsepower car.
But the physics issue with the OG was that it had the motor back there.
Yeah.
To be clear, it's not a Clio V6, but it's the same idea. And
the Clio V6 was just the newer version of the R5 Turbo, but it's the same. It's
20 years later, but yeah.
It still was killy. Anyway, this thing is really, really cool, and I love it. I love the wheels.
I love it so much. They're going to build almost 2,000 of them. Unfortunately, not for the U.S. We'll never see one in the U.S. We'll never see one in Europe because we go to places that are desirable, not rich. And therefore, we'll never see one. But
only the French will have them. No, it's very cool. I think it is very cool. It's sad that it can't come to the U.S., although it would be able to bypass the EPA's 21-year exemption. So it could come to the U.S. tomorrow, but unfortunately, NHTSA is still going to screw us. There are 2 things that stop the cars from coming in. The EPA has 21 years, and NHTSA has 25.
That's a 25. Okay.
25 is the screwer on this car, but the EPA, it's an
interesting distinction to make in this specific case.
Yeah.
In 25 years, we'll see this car in the U.S., I have no doubt.
I think it's cool.
I have some doubts, but nonetheless, wow.
That is the coolest EV that has ever existed. Do you agree? If it does the shifty thing like the Ioniq 5N,
I don't know I would, but it's just cool. I love that it's rear-wheel drive.
Yes,
they're clearly trying to go for something, and the styling looks incredible.
There'll be some mod to turn these lights yellow, like they're
yellow
fog.
So cool,
so cool. The interior photos, by the way, which we don't have up,
interior photo.
are so cool.
I want to see an interior photo. What is it?
It's the R5 Turbo 3E.
R5
Turbo 3 interior.
I don't know why you missed the E, but it's okay.
I don't know.
That's
I think the E is actually pretty important to the whole. Is that it? No,
I've seen a different photo.
Type the E instead of a period.
I don't know how that happened. Oh,
it's just like
is that it?
That might be. Yeah, there's different versions floating around.
That's the concept car.
That's the concept.
This is it.
Yeah,
it says production.
But then there's also like really cool seats.
Wow, look at that.
There is a giant parking brake in the middle, an emergency brake in the middle,
so you can pull it for a drift.
It's so cool. I love that they're being so playful with it. And
actually,
that is cool.
The coolest EV yet to exist. Okay, back to our news. Next news story is Mark Rober.
I love Mark Rober.
Mark Rober is a YouTuber. He makes videos on the internet, much like myself.
And if you have a young child you might discover, he creates like engineering kits that are really aimed at kids from like 5 to 15.
So he's really like an engineering YouTuber. He makes a lot of cool engineering videos. And he just did this video, this has been a big deal this week, where he compared a Tesla, which has radar sensors.
Tesla's automated driving works solely off of cameras. Yeah. Everybody else uses LiDAR. In addition to cameras.
And he compared it to a car that has LiDAR.
Yeah.
And he did a bunch of different tests with it. to see, whether Tesla's system was safe enough. And he basically had like a kid. Would the car stop if it saw a kid run into the road? And the answer for the Tesla was yes. But then when you added rain to the experience and a kid was running into the road, it was just too much going on and the Tesla ran into the kid, etc.
Yep.
I think actually the Tesla in that one didn't run into the kid, but with fog it ran into the kid.
Ran into the kid with fog.
But the best one was this, where he actually created a fake road on a sheet ahead of the car. Wile E. Coyote style to see if the Tesla would run into the road. The cars with LiDAR see this as an object and don't hit it, but the Tesla did run into the road, smashed right into this giant screen.
Which great consumer advice. Who hasn't run into a Wile E. Coyote experience in their past? I certainly have. I know to stop. But it is fascinating to see the difference between the approaches.
And to just see it all tested and actually. The truth be told, the real world application of this video, I think, is minimal.
I don't know.
Kids run out of the street in heavy fog. There are certainly situations where it's probably happened.
The point of it is Elon Musk has made and Tesla's engineers have made a really big point of, they used to use LiDAR in some of their earlier Model S systems. They got rid of that and have said repeatedly, cameras are good enough. What this demonstrates is that certainly in edge cases where there's a fake wall road, but also in situations where
that is an edge case.
Yeah,
in situations where visibility is low, so snow, rain, fog, other related events, LiDAR still has a really substantial benefit because cameras can only see really what less than you as a human can see.
Yeah.
And so their visibility is not improved in those settings.
It was interesting.
It is.
Given how Tesla sells this product, full self-driving, you see some limitations in edge cases. I will say in concurrence with Tesla, honestly, it probably is good enough in most situations.
Sure. There's a big difference between is it good enough for normal and does it match what they claim the benefits of the cameras versus LiDAR are? Answer to that second question is no. Is it good enough for normal driving? Sure. Unless you're trusting it to also drive in the rain or
I will say he also did give Tesla a big benefit in this test. He allowed the cars to be running on autopilot when he did the test. Did you notice that? Whereas the LiDAR car presumably was not running on any sort of thing. It was just using the LiDAR sensors. Now, I do wonder if it was running under full self-driving, if that would change things at all. But probably it's still camera-based and probably wouldn't have had an effect. Regardless, it doesn't work all that well in these edge cases. The edge cases are really edgy in this situation.
And certainly, I mean, Mark Rober tried to make it good television, good YouTube, and so you need to run over a child. A fake child, but a child. There is ample evidence that Tesla is not great at identifying things in rain because the rain does mess with cameras. And you've also seen a lot of cases, or at least a few cases of them hitting stationary objects, fire vehicles, things that are reflective, which makes sense because the camera can't process that.
But don't those Waymos, those F-Pace Waymos sometimes hit that stuff? I-Pace?
Almost never, because LiDAR just shows that it's an object. You can determine, is this something I shouldn't hit, way more effectively. Now, LiDAR is way more expensive.
Right.
And so there's downsides.
Part of the problem is it's heinous.
The LiDAR sensors in a Waymo and any full autonomous car are heinous.
Even on the EX90. Even on the EX90, it looks like a taxi symbol, a taxi sign. Hey, EX90, taxi.
There are
on the front. It does pull up an EX90.
No. I'm aware. I'm aware. There are in betweens, and there have long been in betweens. Tesla's gone all in on cameras, and you can see some of the shortcomings.
Click on this. This is their press photo. Look at that. It has a damn taxi light on the.
It does.
You want to hail an EX90? You go ahead and do that.
Which, by the way, here's a counterpoint against what I'm saying. Those exist, not in use by any Volvo system currently.
Yeah, I know. Well, although I did name EX90 Car of the Year, despite the fact, because they promised me it would exist. Today's show is brought to you by True Classic. Spring is here, and here in Southern California, that can mean extremely varied weather. It's hard to find the right wardrobe for this transitional time of the year, and that's why I'm happy I found True Classic. They have a full wardrobe collection with premium clothes at affordable prices. The shirts really are the perfect fit, snug in the arms and chest with the right amount of room in the midsection. I hate going to the store and buying clothes, and I kind of refuse to do so. So I go to trueclassic.com and I build the perfect outfit in 5 minutes or less. No checkout lines, tight mall parking lots, or bad in-store music. You can mix and match the clothing you need for your lifestyle. With free shipping and a 100% perfect fit guarantee, True Classic has made getting a complete wardrobe a simple and enjoyable experience. Whether you're bundling up for the cold or getting ready for the spring, level up your style with clothes that actually fit just right. Just go to my exclusive link at trueclassic.com/cars to save. That's trueclassic.com/cars. Shop now and elevate your wardrobe today. Okay, next news story, please. Move on to the next news story. BMW. Here are some BMWs that are manufactured in Mexico. And BMW has announced today that when the tariffs, the Trump administration's crazy tariffs, it's kind of ugly. When the tariffs go into effect, BMW is going to price protect the cars for 1 month. So these BMWs, which will be tariffed at the new rate of God knows what,
25%
in theory, but it changes with the winds. These BMWs are going to become incredibly more expensive for BMW to make, and for 1 month, BMW is going to price protect it. Now, after that, they didn't outright say it. They said we will reevaluate, but the implication is they will not. And so that's going to change the pricing of these vehicles quickly.
The OEMs will have to change pricing, and whether they change just pricing on impacted vehicles or whether they change pricing on their entire model line to make the savings equivalent for them, it's going to be inevitable. You can't eat 25% increases.
You can't eat 25%. There's just no way they got 25% of cost in this car.
So you have to pass some of it along to the consumer, which every economist agrees will happen. It's interesting they're doing this. Clearly, they think that they're either going to be very short-lived, or they think that there's some benefit once they go into effect to waiting a month and trying to get additional sales that month. It's one of the two.
It's an interesting situation. I presume all of this car's competitors are not built in Canada or Mexico.
Who knows? Some components are.
But are Caymans, like, are European cars also targeted at these tariffs?
At the moment, no. But there
how
are other
ironic.
tariffs that impact Europe.
Yeah.
And so I would not be shocked if that changes.
This whole thing is a complete disaster, and it's going to be a real disaster for the auto industry. And I understand Trump's idea of trying to get manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. That's not going to happen by April 1. I mean, the concept of it is so silly, and if these tariffs go into effect, this is going to be incredibly damaging. You know, it's funny because President Trump one of the things he ran on was the previous guy increased the prices of stuff.
Yeah.
He's
this
about
will
to.
increase inflation, increase prices. There's no way around it.
Yikes.
Unless, except for cases where the manufacturer is willing to eat that entire cost.
BMW they just
for a
can't
month
for long.
Would, yeah.
There's no point doing it for long. They're not selling cars for practice.
Also,
like,
you know the other part, they probably have a month of inventory in the U.S.
Yeah.
They're not actually eating
the
any
prices.
cost.
They're not going to eat a single. No, but I presume it's going to be based on when the car came over, and maybe they'll base it on. Who knows how they're going to even do what they said, or how President Trump's going to do it. The whole thing's insane. And it'll be interesting to see how these cars are affected, and Tacomas and everything else.
Credit to BMW, they got a positive news story out of it.
They got a positive news story, a brief positive news story.
From doing, to be clear, no automaker has said exactly what new pricing would be under the tariff.
Automakers don't know what's going to happen. And I think a lot of these automakers are still thinking
hoping
it isn't going to happen. And I'm increasingly thinking it might. Okay, next news story, please. Yes. Some sort of electric vehicle in China.
Again, must be Filippo's story.
This is a good story. This is a BYD. Are you familiar?
Oh, yes, of course. BYD. Build your dreams. I build my dreams.
They
on the Lexus LX configurator.
Goddamn right.
They announced this week that they've had a breakthrough in a combination of battery technology and like charger technology, basically, where they're rolling out 2 vehicles that are actively for sale right now or will be shortly in China that will be able to do 1 megawatt charging, so 1,000 kilowatt charging.
Wow.
Right now, the fastest, basically what that means is that they'll be able to charge something like 250 miles of range in 5 minutes.
Think about that.
Yeah,
if you can charge 250 in 5 minutes, that's it.
That's on par with
There are no more boundaries to EVs at that point, except like we don't like how they sound, we don't like how they look, whatever, which are reasonable.
Well, there are no more boundaries,
but it's done.
There are no more boundaries for the user experience. Yeah, there are a lot of boundaries in terms of infrastructure to support charging that can do
that. To that point, BYD is rolling out for the first time ever their own charging network in China.
Wow.
Because they recognize that there aren't chargers that can do
a lot of people, whenever the charging electric cars come up, a lot of misinformed people are like, the grid. But in this case, what about the grid? I can't get a megawatt at my house.
No.
So, like, is this even beneficial?
There's a reason the BYD is building a charging network.
Right.
Because presumably they can put them places where the grid
But
can't
every time I go to one of these EV launches, the automakers always say to me that 92% of consumers do 92% of their charging at home.
Yep.
So, like, the charging network's appreciated. If you could do it in 5 minutes, maybe you wouldn't necessarily charge at home, right?
That's exactly right. Then it would eliminate that fear that people have of like, I want to do 500 miles and I can't do a road trip.
Right.
Well, it's like, well,
you can do it in 5 minutes.
Even
honestly, 10 I would like would be amazing.
But fundamentally, you stop at a gas station. Pumping isn't a full 5 minutes unless you're in a Countach, but it's close.
Oh, man.
So
Yesterday I had
in California.
Yesterday, it took me 20 minutes to get 5 gallons, and so much fuel got onto the ground. Misguided California BS policy.
For those that don't know, in California, gas nozzles need to have like a little tube thing that needs to be engaged
there is a
to prevent
seal on the
emissions.
fuel nozzle that goes into the car to make sure that fuel and fuel vapors don't go everywhere, which is totally
scientifically
reasonable
proven.
and scientifically makes brilliant sense. But like so many bad California policies, they don't think about the 5% of people for whom this screws, and it screws all vintage car owners. And so when you try to stick the fuel nozzle into the
5% of
car,
humans, wow.
well, I don't know, 2%. It does, regardless, I guarantee that I got more fuel on the ground at the filling station by my house yesterday than all of the fuel nozzles in San Diego County saved yesterday. There's nothing I can do. And dude, I tried every different combination of possibility. It just doesn't work for old cars.
Probably isn't advisable, but isn't there some sort of attachment people like vintage car owners have to like?
It would be nice if there was.
I think that
I could fill a gas can and then put it in the car, but like, I'm just trying to fill up my damn car. And yes, some vapors will go out because I have a vintage car, but instead, I'm telling you, a quart of fuel, a quart of gas.
Let me tell you something.
got on the ground.
Having been behind your car when it's running, there's a lot of vapor coming out the back of that car. Anyway,
just trash policy. But anyway,
regardless.
But BYD will save us all.
That is a really
crazy,
notable charging speed improvement.
Yep.
Yeah,
with
no.
some battery tech improvement, but fundamentally more like charging technology and like how they do motors for charging.
May I
which
ask
is really
you the obvious
interesting.
question?
Yeah.
Do we believe them?
Good question. Yeah.
Remember they told us they made that electric car that jumps?
yeah,
Like
it's that deep AI, deep fake.
BYD, to their credit, is one of the most well-known EV brands. Legitimately, the market believes them. Their stock went up notably. I do think that there is
Tesla lies all the time and their stock always goes up. It's a great situation.
I think that this
Remember
is actually
Theranos?
accurate.
Is this that?
Theranos.
I believe this is actually accurate. I would be way more skeptical
Get the
if
black
they.
shirt on too.
I would be way more skeptical if they said they had some like large battery technology development change. That's not what this was. It was a bunch of incremental improvements to existing like how you charge an EV.
Well,
And so I do believe them, and it's exciting. There are already cars that you've reviewed. The new Taycan is one of them that are on 800-volt infrastructure. And
yeah, they can charge
quickly.
in 20, 30 minutes. Can charge.
There have been cars that are in like the 100 mile per 5 minute range charging.
Yeah.
This is not that big a leap, but it is a milestone for sure.
If it's doable, it goes back to what I've said on so many of these podcasts, which is the Chinese continue to run with a huge advantage because they have these massive incentives to make EVs in China, and we in the States remain behind. If BYD breaks through at 5-minute charging and we're still in the dark ages with our Mach-E's, this is another example of why the U.S. government should be subsidizing electric vehicles as much as in some parts of me, the capitalist in me sometimes hates to say it, we want to win. And if they're charging EVs in 5 minutes, they are
By the way, $35,000.
$35,000 car. You can charge it in 5 minutes, and it has a taxi thing in the roof. Okay, next news story, please. Oh, how lovely. A fellow on a modded 360 with South Dakota plates. Seems about right. What's the news story here?
Shockingly, this one isn't actually mine. It's still Filippo.
Incredibly, it's me once again. In the last year, 40% of new Ferrari buyers, so buyers new to the first time owning a new Ferrari, are under 40.
Yeah. I mean,
A year ago, that was 30%.
yeah.
This is notable.
It's hugely notable, and it goes back to some of the stuff we've been talking about with Ferrari's changes in how they're making and selling cars.
Working.
You know,
Clearly.
I made this big deal about how Ferrari's screwing themselves over because they're making all these SF90s and selling to people who aren't going to be able to get the exotic cars. Ferrari didn't care. They're just trying to sell cars.
And they're getting new buyers
they're getting
who
new
are
buyers.
young, which is rare. Think about it. The people that buy expensive cars aren't generally that young.
But
Yeah.
Ferrari once said, I build my cars for young men, yet only old men can afford them.
But
Right.
the thing
Now
is,
young men-
Ferrari has changed their strategy entirely. It used to be you had to get on a 5-year waiting list
Yep.
to get one. They are completely going away from that. They want to sell cars to people. And this thing also says only 80% of sales are to existing customers, which means that basically a quarter of Ferraris are going to new buyers. A couple of years ago, new buyers really didn't have access to new Ferraris.
Right.
And that is clearly changing.
They always had access to California.
Well, to be clear,
But
they still
pre-California,
do.
they didn't.
it's- I think they're selling a lot
doing
of. It's clear based on their sales numbers from last year that said that they were selling a lot of hybrids. That's the 296.
Well,
and they're selling
yeah.
pumping
and the
tons-
SF90. Because I think new buyers can walk into a dealer and get an SF90 tomorrow.
Probably.
At a discount.
I'm sure there are ones sitting around that they are desperate to get rid of.
It is interesting. I have said so many times, Ferrari's changing the strategy. This isn't good for them. In the end, I think they changed the strategy in a way that it will still be good for them. They are reaching new buyers. It isn't going to be the Ferrari that we knew before, where you had to get on a list and there was value in that. but instead they have new people coming in who they're selling cars to.
There is a real concern that you guys have voiced before that will there still be as many children that were passionate about Ferrari? Here's a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, I don't know, driving a 360 or in a 360.
Sitting in a 360.
Sitting in a 360.
Manual one, though.
A manual one.
Yeah.
Will that happen? Will there be kids that want to sit in an SF90 to the same degree? Maybe and maybe not, but they'll see more around.
It's
and
less
they'll
about
see
the
younger
kids
owners.
and more about does the brand get devalued if they're just selling cars to anybody who walks in the door.
Well, also, to be clear, like I think a lot of kids who fell in love with Ferrari fell in love with, I think it's often been the poster cars.
Sure.
Which means that in this case, like maybe this kid's dream Ferrari is a Daytona SP3 because that was the hottest, craziest Ferrari at the time. For a lot of people, it was the F40 or the F50. Not many people had a Mondial on their wall, but they sold those to people eventually.
The F80, I'm sure, will be equally appealing.
Yeah, I'm not even going to touch that one. But like, I think it will have appeal. It will be different as long as they continue to be like effective in Formula One. I think for the diehard enthusiast, that's like kind of what matters. But
I really think though the bigger question is less about whether the young people are into it and more about whether the brand cheapens itself by selling more and more and more cars. It used to be that getting a Ferrari was special. You were on a list for years and it was hard.
Well,
now any rich person can get a Ferrari. That definitely makes it less appealing.
With the exception of the really special stuff, is still going to be incredibly hard to get. So I think they have that going for them. Whereas like, McLaren, you kind of get any of them. If you wanted an Elva, thank God, take it off.
Artura,
any of them. So like I think.
And so the question there is what happens to the brand, and I think it remains to be seen. But I think Ferrari's taking the risk that it's not like they're tripling their volume overnight. Like they're still going relatively small, and they're just going to try to continue to sell cars to people and make more money. It's a public company. It's what they got to do.
And they're reaching younger consumers.
Younger people,
is more people good for them as long as they can retain them.
Today's show is brought to you by Brunt. Boots are just like cars. There are many choices, and the one you choose has a direct impact on how functional and enjoyable your activities are. I wear boots when I go off-roading, as there are many times I have to get in and out of my truck in difficult terrains, and with all the slip hazards out there in the wild, this can be dangerous. For a long time, I just ordered any old pair of boots from big box retailers, never having full confidence in them, and taking them off after a long day on the trails was always the best thing about them. Not anymore. Now I wear boots from Brunt. I can't believe how comfortable they are right out of the box with no long break-in period. These also deliver the protection I'm looking for, and my feet are so much more comfortable after a long day of wear. Brunt boots are lightweight, waterproof, slip and oil resistant, heat resistant, and even electrical hazard rated. And it's incredible to finally have a pair of boots that are as comfortable as my regular sneakers. Brunt boots are built for the toughest job sites in the world, so you know your feet are protected. And Brunt lets you try the boots on your job site risk-free, and all their products have free shipping. Brunt didn't just make a durable work boot, they reinvented comfort for the hardest workers out there. For a limited time, our listeners get $10 off at Brunt by using code CARS at checkout. Just head to bruntworkwear.com and use code CARS and you're all set. And remember, Brunt lets you try all their products on the job risk-free. After you purchase your boots, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our podcast and tell them that we sent you. Speaking of Ferrari, give us our last news story.
Now, this one is mine. Now, although this is a diagram of an engine, this is a Ferrari engine because recently Ferrari filed a patent for a new type of engine. Now, what's interesting about it is that the pistons themselves aren't circular. They're ovals. Now,
That is interesting.
This is not the first time a manufacturer has done this. Honda did this as well. They also did it with motorcycle engines. And the reason that it's so interesting is that basically it makes the engine substantially more compact. The pistons can be mounted, or the cylinders can be much closer together.
Right.
So you can end up with a very high efficiency engine.
So why didn't anybody do this before?
Well, the piston rings are hard to manage, and there are a couple of other engineering reasons why it is very difficult. But what's really interesting to me about this diagram is that it's a 12-cylinder engine. Not a 6, not an 8. There are 12 pistons.
But if they're trying to make it smaller, do you think they're maybe making room for hybrid componentry?
I think it's room for hybrid componentry, and I suspect it's also room to be mid-engined. I suspect this engine is going to go in the back of something, maybe a new Testarossa. But what's really notable about this, to me, in addition to how crazy the design is and they're like pushing the envelope of engineering, this will be the first new V12 they've developed since 2002. which was the
That's right.
F-140 V12 in the Enzo. They then use that in all subsequent V12
Various
cars.
variations
Yes,
of it have
with the
been
exception of the
used
575 and 612, which use the same engine, which was the
But
previous.
the previous one, that was already,
The F-140 has been in production for a really long
25
time.
years.
Yeah.
25
Wow.
years. And so if they're really pursuing a new 12-cylinder engine and it's going to have this cutting-edge technology, assuming they can make it work, it is Ferrari, who knows? They might file this patent and then
It'll
they
work
can't
out.
make the engine work and they'll get rid of it.
It's interesting though because the F80 is using a six-cylinder. So they're creating a 12-cylinder still, but they're not putting it in the flagship car.
Might be in
It
the
might not be
Icona
ready.
series and not in the...
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Which that speaks volumes, I think, to us enthusiasts.
That's interesting.
So yes, they are making more cars for younger people,
And
but
they're
they're still...
making V12.
Or it's just in an 812 successor. But even then, you'd be surprised that they don't, if they're making a V12
They're putting R&D into a 12-cylinder engine.
and not putting it in the big car.
Engine size and performance aren't directly
Yeah,
linked.
but having a V12.
in my world, they are.
If you're going for pure, you want the fastest car, you don't probably put
Maybe,
a
but
V12
having
car.
a V12 in the supercar is
This is-
incredibly valuable. Even
not where Ferrari is right now. They're going after
Yeah.
performance. They're going less for
12-cylinder
heritage.
engines are a core competency engine for that
Yeah.
manufacturer. In the same way that flat sixes are for Porsche, V8s are for Ford, with Mustang, V12s are for Ferrari.
Plus, the Super Ferraris have always had V12s, with a few exceptions. Okay.
But nonetheless, really exciting news. Can't wait to see how this develops.
Yeah.
They've certainly
Very
never had V6s. That is really interesting. And now we move on to our Talk Cars segment, which is sponsored by the Lexus LX. The Lexus LX.
I want to be clear. It's not. It's sponsored by Cars and Beds. Go to carsandbeds.com.
The Lexus LX, I want to be clear about this also, since you were being clear. The Lexus LX is offered in the following colors: Earth, Nori, Eminent, or Caviar. Which LX do you want?
I really thought that was a joke.
Those are the colors.
I believed him when he said.
Okay, I want to start by talking about how me and Filippo saw LaFerrari. Folks,
We did.
I'm going to tell you a story. It's a great story. Look at this picture. This is a picture I took on Sunday. Filippo and I drove out to the desert because, God, we're free people. We can do whatever the hell we want.
Yep.
We drove out to the desert.
Saw Prius V.
And so we're driving along in Palm Springs and Palm Desert there. And I tell Filippo, Filippo, there's this street in Palm Desert called El Paseo. It's where all the nice cars are. I say, a couple years ago, I was here and I saw a new Ford GT, which is a car you don't really see on the road. I say, we got to go down El Paseo. He says, all right, fine, let's go down El Paseo. So I turn, I was in a new 911. God knows why. It sounds like a dream.
It does.
We were in a new 911 driving through the desert. Anyway, so we start driving, like we're on the street for a block after I had just built it up as this street full of crazy cars, and we see this LaFerrari. So obviously I freak out as a seasoned former car spotter.
Right.
I'm like, oh my God, it's a LaFerrari. And Filippo's sitting there like, yeah,
Probably.
cars are cars, I don't know.
No, I agreed. I saw the corner.
So I U-turn and I go back to it as fast as I possibly can, and then I have to do another sharp U-turn. I do this crazy sharp U-turn in the new 911, and then an alarm goes off in the 911. It goes, wee, 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 and then the hazard lights go on, like I'm trying to steal the car because I had just done this sharp turn. It
made no sense.
We think it was because it thought it had been in an accident
It must
or something.
have.
But the turn I did wasn't insane. Like it's what you would do on a track.
Exactly. Known as one of the best, most balanced sports cars of all time. You did a hard turn and it thought
I got an accident alert. So anyway, regardless of this, now the alarm is going off, and the hazard lights are on, and I'm chasing this LaFerrari down the road like I'm a cop trying to pull him over in my Porsche with a siren. Anyway, so eventually he parks, and actually the very next turn in he parks. So go to the next. Are all the pictures in here? Is it
No, just the one.
Oh, we don't have all the pictures? They're beautiful photos. They actually weren't. But the fella got out of the car. He was an old guy, and he got out of the car. And I don't really talk to the people. I don't really
No, but
care.
they did have a red 911 chasing them. The alarm going off.
But the guy pulled over, and he tried to go into an art gallery that was closed, and he left the car sitting there, and it was very exciting.
It was. And then somebody opened the fuel filler.
You never see a LaFerrari on the street. I haven't seen a LaFerrari on the street. Actually, you and me saw one in Malibu 3 years ago, probably.
I guess it was, yeah. An Aperta.
An Aperta.
Yeah.
This
Never
is
seen one.
incredible. And I was very excited by the whole thing. And I'm still kind of trying to figure out who was driving it. It was from Chicago, and I have a buddy up there, and I was like, do you know this guy? And he didn't. We got to do some digging.
Got to do some digging. It was quite a moment.
Well,
Quite a moment.
for him. For you, it was just another day.
He didn't care. And you know what? I was disappointed by the general reaction. People are, oh, it's a LaFerrari. Yeah, it's not an F50. Like, if you had seen an F50, people would be freaking out. It's still a Ferrari supercar. When was the last time you saw a Ferrari supercar?
A couple weeks ago.
a couple weeks ago, Amelia Island.
Driving down the street, you're next to a Prius. You see 5 million rolling down the street.
What was the dude doing? It was a Sunday in March.
He was out having some fun.
I'm glad he drives it.
Listen,
Everybody
in
should
Palm
drive their
Springs,
LaFerrari.
this is the time we should go car spotting in Palm Springs one day, because in the spring, all these people are about to have to go back to the hellish cold places they're from. Okay,
Right.
So they all have to go back to Alberta and Minnesota and Manitoba and Illinois, and so they're getting the last little bit of enjoyment out of Palm Springs. They're playing the last rounds of golf. They're getting
playing their last rounds of golf again.
They're playing their last rounds of golf again. They're trying to convince their wife to let them play yet another round of golf, and they're driving their LaFerraris.
Man, how special.
It was special.
It is, yes.
I'll admit.
It is. It's, again, not my favorite of the Ferrari supercars, but to see one just
In
like
fact,
driving.
your least favorite, I presume.
Oh, don't make it
Count
do
the
this.
F80?
Oh, no, not yet.
Not yet. It's not yet my least favorite. No, yeah, but no, it's just special. Someone actually using this car as a car.
It's so crazy to see now. I mean, there've become such investments. I never assumed that I'll see any of these cars at any
$4
point.
million. Yeah, exactly.
It's totally insane.
Here's
And the fact that the
that
battery
was
works
car.
is astonishing. It's not at a dealer having that replaced for 260 grand is
Maybe
amazing.
that's why they had a prominent dealership frame on the back. They were just glad the dealer did that for them.
They know the dealer very well.
Montana plates like they all are.
Yup.
Okay, next Talk Cars story is from Filippo. Filippo, you going to talk about Earth, Wind, and Fire, whatever the colors were on that car?
No, but I do want to talk about electric vehicles.
Electric vehicles, great,
All right.
lovely. Kennan
Have you noticed that there are, for most of like the higher end electric vehicles, the Model S's, the Model X, the Cybertruck, the R1S, the R1T, I'm gonna run out.
Yes,
All those, right?
Help me out here.
They all have an incredibly high performance version.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Plaid is incredibly fast.
Right.
The Lucid Air Sapphire is a $250,000 four electric motor vehicle. The R1S has a 3-motor and a 4-motor version. You can't tell any of them apart from the base version of that car.
Yeah.
Wait,
It's
you mean
absolutely
visually?
Visually, because like
Whereas
an
an M3
right, an M3 you can tell, an M5 you can tell, an R5 Turbo, man, can you tell?
Yes.
He
And
and
then
that to me when we were
R1S.
driving back from the desert. Pull up, I want to argue with you.
There's
a little
something here.
Because
What are you gonna- what,
pull up-
the Model
go
S
back,
Plaid
go back
badge?
to the site. Go back
Okay,
to the site.
sure, you can see a
Type
Plaid
in
badge.
Model 3 Performance. Model 3 Performance.
Are you gonna go for the plate frame that
Folks.
says all-wheel drive?
Folks, look at the vast distinction.
It's a sea
on
of
these
differentiation.
automobiles. Click on this blue one. Look at
Which,
this blue
by the way, has real horsepower and
This
faster
car,
60.
compared to a regular Model 3,
Looks
this
so
car
different.
has,
I think the wheels are maybe different, but you can get performance wheels on a base.
well,
Yeah. But like why
agree
doesn't
completely.
certainly Tesla, but I get that because they want to produce the fewest panels possible. But
Yeah.
why doesn't Rivian try to differentiate their
It's crazy.
highest powered R1S, which is
Well,
like
or-
a G63?
it's crazy.
better performance. than
Rivian
that.
sells a G63, but they don't tell anybody about
No,
it.
or the Sapphire. Sapphire admittedly has wider track, but that's it.
The Sapphire has a few
has
differences
1,234
because
horsepower.
the tires are so big
Yeah.
and all that. And even the regular Air is so cool that they don't need to distinguish that. But the Rivians are really the best
Go
example.
to
though.
an R1S.
Type in R1S, and it's like wild. I totally agree.
You just can't tell.
You have no idea whether you're looking at the large battery, the
Quad motor all-wheel drive,
quad motor.
or the dual motor new one. Kennan doesn't
It
know.
is a story.
The green one.
It is a story out as old as time from automaker playbooks. If you want people to get the cool version, you put more power in it, but also you make it look cooler so that that when they're driving around, everybody knows how rich they are and how cool their car is.
Right. This is the basis one. You can't tell.
You can't tell.
Which is like good if you're buying the base one, I guess, but very
Yeah.
bad if you're spending an extra
It's
30
hard
grand.
to convince people to spend more because even the base R1S has more power than whatever car they were coming out of.
Yes.
So what's the point of going for the crazy one if
It looks the
people don't
same.
even know?
Right, you need to Rivian, take our advice, differentiate the models, make them look different. They're going to come out with a quad
I
motor.
do
while they've
assume,
done.
though, that the reason is, like you said, they're going for some production
Well, do you want to
simplicity.
sell cars or do you not want to sell cars?
Well,
But they're selling either way.
Did
It's
you want to
just-
sell your highest profit
but
margin, which presumably are the most expensive ones?
they are selling either way, but you do want to try to get people to go into your highest margin cars. And
Assuming their highest margin.
yeah, well, they must be. And like this is just the easiest thing in the world. Have they really done the research and found that making a few new panels and different wheels is not worth? I mean, charging an extra 25. If I was getting a
don't get
Rivian, I would get a base model, and I would tell people it's a
Or
quad
like,
motor.
even on cars where you can't tell that
like
either.
the hat over the gear stick on the Supra.
Does the Mercedes CL66 look that? Excuse me, CL65 look that different from
66?
a 55?
Wow, rare model.
No, I don't think so. You saw you saw a V12 Mercedes yesterday.
I knew it instantly.
Like wheels change. Wheels change at the least, and there's some like treatment. It's not even body panels. It's just some
aura
treatment
around the car. Yeah,
and the EV manufacturers need to do the same thing if they want to sell those.
I agree. I think it's crazy. I think it's crazy. Okay, next, I think that's a very astute point, and I think it's wild, and I think it's really surprising.
Call me up. I'll help.
I want to take a moment to tell you about another podcast you should absolutely check out, Drive with Jim Farley. Ford CEO Jim Farley talks to some of his favorite people about what they drive and what drives them to succeed. He has great guests on the show, like the British racing driver Vicky Butler Henderson and one of my favorite people, Jay Leno. I've checked out a few episodes of Drive with Jim Farley, and I really love to hear his insights. There was a time when we only got to hear from automotive CEOs and press quotes and carefully worded corporate statements, but Jim Farley's podcast is personal, and it really shows his passion for cars, which is really cool. And this is a podcast I'm certainly going to keep in my listening routine. Click the link in the description box to listen to Drive with Jim Farley today. The next thing I want to discuss during the Talk Cars segment today is the Lexus LX, which happens to be the sponsor of the Talk Cars segment.
The irony here is that Lexus Racing was about a year ago the sponsor of the podcast.
Well, yeah, we're not actually sponsored by Lexus, I don't think. To my knowledge, I don't pay attention to a lot of that stuff. But
except for what he does at read, of course. But he pays close attention.
A year ago, I bought a Sequoia. In the last year, I've been talking about how I'm off cars. I now have behind me the new Lexus LX Overtrail. They sent it to me for the week, I think just to screw with me.
Yeah, and not because it's a new model or anything.
Well, there was that component of it, I suppose. Now I want one desperately. I now wonder if I made a mistake with the Sequoia. I've been pricing the difference between the two. It's pretty significant, actually.
It
has everything that the Sequoia lacks.
Style,
why can't
class.
you just admit you're always on cars?
No,
you're never off cars. You say you're off cars, but that you just lie. It's like the Italian government general. Like, you just lie.
No. Look. Here's the deal.
True.
I'm not on cars. However, I drive around in the Overtrail LX, and I think to myself, I really wish I had this vehicle. And I'll tell you,
how much better can it be?
It solves every problem I have with the Sequoia.
Except the fact that it's 8 inches shorter,
that is one of the biggest problems that it solves. The Sequoia is simply too big.
Remember when you had the Sequoia? We spent a long time in front of your house moving the seats around to figure out, could it fit 6 people and a stroller? And the answer was, barely.
But it does. And that's hard, actually. Not a lot of cars can do
8
that.
inches? Remove that.
It was actually 6 people in 2 strollers, and it was able to do that.
But remove 8 inches and you can't.
Yeah, but the problem with the Sequoia is with those extra 8 inches, I actually don't take it anywhere because it is simply too large. It is too large to drive around. So that would be one problem it solves.
Yeah.
It's also always in 4-wheel drive. I hate that the Sequoia is in 2-wheel drive until you put it in 4-wheel drive, because it's like, how much is it raining that I should put it in 4-wheel? Is this enough? That's stupid. There's no other SUV like that.
I agree.
There is no other SUV like that.
That explanation for why it matters to you is also insane.
I hate the gauge cluster situation in the Sequoia. It's not configurable enough. It doesn't show me music. They don't even have music on there. I hate...
play music in the car.
He has to get a bowl and put his phone in it, and that's how he listens to music.
The ride quality is so much better in this, even though it's still BOF. That's body on frame. It's an industry term. It's still body on frame. That is the nicest riding body on frame vehicle I've ever driven. It's still about 20 times worse than an X7, but it's the nicest riding body on frame vehicle I've ever driven.
Which your car is not.
That's another thing. It's liftable with air suspension, which my Sequoia is not. So I could get even extra ground clearance out of it. It has triple lockers, which the Sequoia does not. It has front, rear, and center lockers, the Overtrail only.
And crucially, it has how much extra horsepower?
20 extra horsepower on the same torque. The powertrain is identical for all intents.
So
now,
why don't you just buy one?
Because it's 50 grand more. That's a lot of money. Okay. And second,
the Sequoia TRD Pro isn't a cheap vehicle.
Well, it was 83 grand, and I felt that was too much.
This is 50 grand more?
This is 116, and my Sequoia is not worth 83 anymore. It's worth 73 probably. So it'd be a 50 grand
All right, I mean,
swap
scheme math, but okay.
Well, that's how it works.
Wow.
It's a 50 grand swap ski. Now, they offer it in this color called Desert, and I know what you're thinking. No, it's Earth. I'm sorry.
That bet almost worked.
Did I make a mistake here? This didn't exist when I bought my Sequoia. I want this car.
For the record, the LX600, which is the same except for the hybrid, did exist. And
it did, but it was too expensive.
And then I was so worried when the GX550 came out and you had a press car that you would because that was like a month after you bought the Sequoia. I was so worried about that. I didn't think I had to be worried a year later about an LX700H.
I mean, fair. You go through this stage all the time.
No,
whether it's this car, or you'll
Off-road GLS.
which was literally a month ago.
Yeah.
You really wanted an off-road
Thank
GLS.
There was only one day of that.
Exactly
And you
right.
know what the difference with that was? We found out the off-road package on the GLS doesn't have what I need. And the moment I realized that, I never
Yeah,
thought
but
about it.
how deep did you go before you realized?
Deeper than I wish, but it's a whole thing with Mercedes-Benz.
Does the Sequoia not just do enough? Why can't you just be
So
satisfied
big.
with that?
The Sequoia,
I understand
the
it's
Sequoia
pompous, but
looks stupid.
yeah, it does. But
To be fair,
it's too late.
have you seen the
It's not
F4
too late.
LX?
Yes, it is.
I don't-
Here's the thing. Here's the
wanna
thing
be
about
around
this.
that.
The thing that may kill the LX, though, the thing that may kill the LX is the self-driving. So the Sequoia, I'm going to frame, how do I frame this in a way that's consumer friendly?
Godspeed to you.
Okay. The Sequoia's self-driving allows you to not necessarily be looking forward. I always do, of course.
It is less restrictive in what it allows the driver. How it allows the
On
driver
a
to
closed
operate
circuit with a professional driver, he's not looking for it. But, you know.
So for example, the Sequoia has the greatest self-driving tech in the whole industry, and the reason for that is because you only need to rest skin on the steering wheel, and if you're doing that, it will drive for you. You don't have to be looking forward. This car, I think you have to
If
be
you're
looking
wearing
forward.
sunglasses, if you have highly reflective sunglasses, it's helpful.
Just so disturbed by the phrase "rest skin." Is that
Well,
an industry term?
because in theory it has to be a hand, but
But what if you have gloves on?
well,
That would be
you
fine,
know, I think it's capacitive, so capacitive gloves would work. But anyway, the LX I think requires
Has
you
a
to be
driver
looking
monitoring
forward.
system. I bet it does.
And I think this is a rational thing to say. If I want self-driving, I don't want to also have to be looking forward.
It is
the whole
we're in a
point
weird
of
period of time.
self-driving.
I agree. We're in a weird period of time.
So
where
you
they
drive in
require
that thing selfly, and then it says look forward, and it's like, aren't you driving? Like, that would be like asking your passenger to be, hey man, no, you can't change the way. You got to keep looking. You got to keep looking ahead. And your passenger's like, well, but aren't you driving?
That's a fair point.
don't wanna touch
we're in a weird period of time where there's claims about the efficacy of self-driving, but the systems aren't there yet, and the legislation certainly isn't there yet. So you're required to be monitored. And the
disappointing.
Sequoia's just before
The
that.
Sequoia's just before it all. So
Yeah.
the Sequoia's got the perfect self-driving system, and the LX, I don't know yet. I haven't tested it yet, but I'm
You're
going to
also
test
not
it right
gonna do
after this
You're not going to do this.
because it's too much money.
It's just
and I'm off cars.
50 grand is a
I'm
big
off cars.
I'm off cars. I'm off cars. I'm not
I
doing
just.
This is all
anymore.
wild.
It's
all
every time.
wild.
And if it's not this, it says, "Oh, do I need the Ford GT? Yeah, absolutely need the Ford GT. And do I need the Coyote GT anymore? Absolutely, greatest car ever made."
Well,
You just
those
it's
are
like-
the greatest. I
he
have
just-
no interest in changing out those
Except
cars.
for like
He
once
says
a
this,
month.
and
you
then
do.
once a month he says this, then he drives whatever it is, and he says
Yeah,
it's the
every
greatest thing
time.
ever made.
Greatest car
and
ever
it's
made.
like, yeah.
He's going to drive the Sequoia for the first time in like 5 months soon, and then he'll love it again.
Well, you know, I would, but it's too big. Kennan, tell us about the F1 race situation.
Yes, I'm so excited. So this summer I'm going to France for my friend Low Voice Luke. His voice is crazy low. You both have met him. He's getting married in Limoges, France. His fiancée is from-
married in France.
He sounds like this. His voice is actually this. Hey, Cannon, what's up?
His voice is actually that low.
I'm told that Luke is a listener. He's joined
Yeah.
us today.
Nice to see you out there, Luke, or in your language, nice to see you out there. Luke.
Yeah, great to see you too.
Okay,
Yeah,
so he's
anyway,
getting married in France.
he's getting
Is that
married
even
in
a legal wedding?
Yes,
This is not
they're getting married in the U.S.
the
first, and then they're having another ceremony
My
there. Yes, but
goodness.
anyway, we're basically all of our friends are like descending on France to go to this
Sitting
wedding.
on France.
Yes, like
Happened
we
before.
did in 1944.
Oh my God!
But
It's like next year.
anyway, the whole band of brothers is getting together to celebrate Luke's wedding, which is very exciting. But everybody has turned this into a trip, and I started looking around the dates when it was going to happen, and I happened to discover that Spa-Francorchamps, my favorite Formula One race of the year, is the following weekend. So I looked into buying tickets, and I bought them. I'm
Now,
sitting at the
go
base
get
of
it.
Eau Rouge in it's like one of the grandstands there, so I can see
Do you
that
think
radio.
Xfinity will have a
Despite
Q40
the fact-
park there?
Nice. Despite no one will understand that reference. I do though.
Q50?
Q50. Despite the fact that it's called Francorchamps and the corner is called Eau Rouge, it's actually in Belgium, where I think they speak German. And if they don't, they at least have the German flag on their flag.
Well, Belgium exists just so England and Germany can work out their differences.
So
Yeah,
you're
nothing
going to
to
the
do there.
F1 race. Have you been to an F1 race before?
Yes, this will be my third. I went to Austin. I went to the Circuit of the Americas several years ago, and then I went with our friend Sam to his bachelor party in Montreal.
In Montreal,
Amazing.
but this is the first European F1 race. This
Yes.
is like
Well,
this
where
is like taking
began.
the Countach back to Saint Agatha.
This is the one. This is like for
one?
me. It's my favorite race of the year.
Really?
Like, and it has
Why?
been for the. So I got flayed a little bit last time. I apologize to the fans of Braun Racing that I forgot they were the first team to win, like as a rookie, won.
Yeah, complained. I filleted.
I apologize about that. I did forget about Braun. But I've watched Formula One for since 2008. I've been a fan of
So you saw that Braun, that was 2009 that Braun won.
I forgot. Yes, but yes, I have watched.
I was disappointed. You were disappointed.
Look, I have never seen Ferrari win a championship my entire life. That's something to think about. It'll be 18 years.
So wait, why is it your favorite race? What about the Belgian Grand Prix?
Well, it's incredibly fast. It's incredibly challenging, and the conditions change a lot. Some tracks are faster than others. This one is particularly fast. And
Abu Dhabi, they got speed bumps.
It's
it's a slow track.
No, but Austria, the curbs are kind of speed bumps. But it's known for its speed. It's known for its constantly changing conditions because it's so big. It rains there a lot, and rain is the great equalizer, as it's known. It means that other teams can kind of get in the mix. And this year already, the first Formula One race was last week in Australia, which I also realize is not where Formula One always starts their races, but it has been for a very long time. And it was chaos. It was rain, and it was insane.
It rains in Australia?
Yes, there are 5 rookies, I think, on the circuit this year, and 4 of them crashed out. But not only them, like experienced drivers crashed out too. It was just a melee.
So you're hoping for rain?
You always hope for rain with Formula One. Even if I'm sitting there drenched, but sitting there at Spa watching rain would be crazy. I hope it's not as much rain as it was a couple years ago when they had to cancel a race.
That would be unfortunate.
But just to be there, is so cool.
So if you're going to Spa, or if you're one of our 3 Belgian listeners who we didn't offend already, which I presume you're already turning on, but if you're there, Kennan will be there. Go find him and talk to him about M5s.
Yes. I'm going to be driving a very special car that I don't want to talk about just yet, that I'm driving to to the wedding.
Is it a Lincoln Continental?
Oh, that'd be so
in Europe,
cool.
that would be wild.
Is it a Lexus LX 700H Overtrail in Earth?
When I think Europe, that's the vehicle I need.
Europe.
Let me tell you something. When I was in Europe last year, a year ago, I saw a Lexus GX with California plates.
Wild.
Somebody took a Lexus SUV to Europe.
Amazing.
Okay, Kennan, I'm proud of you. I'm excited for you.
Actually, you were part of the impetus for this. You said, Kennan, if you don't go do this.
He was like, I might go to Monaco instead. I'm like, if not the race, but just to go to Monaco. I was like, if you go to Monaco to see rich Russians driving supercars around at 7 miles an hour instead of a Formula One race, I will personally kill you.
I'm going to do them both. I will still do that because I do. I mean, you say that. Yeah, we freak out about car shows about seeing an F40 driven around. You said the ice.
When I made that proclamation, though, it was one or the other, and if you do them both, that's great. That'd be cool.
And I think I can do Stuttgart as well and see the Porsche Museum and the Mercedes-Benz Museum, and
in Monaco you might see a CLK GTR.
Okay.
You never know.
You know how Mercedes Gullwings or Porsche 959s will typically always be valuable and continue to go up in value? It's kind of similar to gold, which is why we've partnered with a company called Acre Gold. Financial experts and big banks agree the value of gold is climbing new heights in 2025 and beyond. So, how do you get in? Buying gold can feel complicated and expensive, but Acre Gold subscriptions make it easy and affordable. With subscriptions from $30 to $250 per month, Acre Gold makes gold ownership a reality for every budget. How does it work? Make automatic monthly payments into your stash until you reach the price of an Acre Gold bar. Once you pay for your bar, Acre Gold discreetly ships it to your door. And look at this, a real gold bar that Acre mailed to us. Markets go up and down, but gold has stood the test of time. It's real, it's solid, and now it's easier than ever to own. Secure your wealth and take control of your future. Start today at getacregold.com. You want to talk about the CLK GTR? Tell us your thoughts. Did you watch the video?
No.
I watched it. Of course you did.
Not yet. I've been busy.
It's an amazing video.
It came out yesterday. I know that about 1 million people, literally 1 million ads filming, have seen it. I am not one of those. I'm sorry. I'm busy.
You'll watch though. I got the Bravada coming up, and that's one for you.
I will legitimately watch the video.
Watch the Lexus LX Overtrail video. If only I had one on Earth. Anyway, I did the CLK GTR video. It was really popular. Very interesting car. Very interesting video. Huge response, just like the Aston Valkyrie. Which finished 9th at Sebring, and I find it to be...
It's an important thing. An NA V-12 car finished 9th at Sebring. It's going to Le Mans. It's very important. He didn't want to talk about it, but we're talking about it.
The CLK GTR video went up. It was huge, and I'm glad that everybody loved it so much. It was a very special thing. I've now reviewed an enormous portion of the craziest cars, and this was definitely one on my bucket list of cars I really, really wanted to review. Huge shout out to Faster LLC. The Faster is the YouTube channel who had the car and lent it to me. it's a big risk to lend an idiot a car. We only
Right.
drove it for a little bit. I didn't push it. I don't care. People are like, oh, you didn't drive it hard. Yeah, you do it. You're getting a $10 million car and drive it hard. I'm out. I'm all set. I'll watch your video. But it was amazing also to just show it off because I think most people have no idea, how anything works in this car. And it's cool to be up close with it.
If the Valkyrie is a 10 on the which got 9th at the rings, if it's a 10 in craziness, where is the CLK GTR?
Less. The Valkyrie is the craziest thing I've ever
Where does it? How does it compare to Aston Martin Lagonda?
The Lagonda, that was so cool, man.
Yeah.
But
Odometer under the hood.
the original Lagonda.
That's what
Are you talking about the Tariff?
No, not the Tariff. I would have said the Tariff.
Lagonda,
I know.
Lagonda, 80s Lagonda, and the Vector W8 are still the greatest videos. But CLK and McLaren F1.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I'm going to confess something. Sometimes late at night, when I got nothing else to do, I'll put on one of my old videos.
If the car's insane enough, I get it.
And I think to myself, God, this guy is annoying. Okay, time to move on to the market report, which is brought to you by the Cars and Bids app. To download it, you go somewhere and do something. We don't have time to cover it. We don't have time. We got to move on to the market report.
Download it.
Tell us about stuff.
All right, Kennan, I'm going to kick us off. Can you go to the S65 AMG, please?
Yeah.
We sold one yesterday. And there's a 2015 S65 AMG. This has a twin turbo V12 with 621 horsepower and more torque than like 5 of the cars in the office combined.
738.
Yeah, that's
what's
right.
the mileage on this beast? Go down.
Almost 100,000.
And it's in Oklahoma.
But it's an incredibly highly equipped car. Scroll down to equipment. It has literally any equipment you might possibly want.
Oh, the rear seat package?
Right, and then the executive rear seat package, because the regular rear seat package, not executive enough.
Not executive enough. So the executive package has a power calf rest.
Correct, important.
Filippo doesn't even have calves. He's that poor.
I only have full-grown cows?
I was hoping you'd make a couch.
Pull up. Is it license plate V12 AMG?
Yes, it is.
Wow,
In Oklahoma, that's
buddy.
available.
Yeah.
So it's the only one.
Here's a 2015 S65 AMG for
Where did he take these
33,000
pictures? Go back to that
in a
picture.
field.
He took the picture. This is so Oklahoma. He
cows,
literally
yeah,
went to a
look.
cow pasture.
There's a literal cow.
It might be a calf. We don't know. It needed the support. But like, it's fascinating to me how cheap these are because a 2015 E63 AMG wagon, which is probably the most expensive like other AMG in there, is
same money.
Same money.
Yeah.
Or you could get a V12 with
This
all
is
the
a mild
equipment in the
car.
world.
This is a
But
mild
a 100,000 mile E63 wagon
Yeah,
is that
you're
price
right.
too.
You're right.
Yeah, but
More or
look,
less.
the interior doesn't seem that.
No,
bad.
these interiors don't wear. It's interesting. Mercedes had that horrible spate of bad quality cars from like 99 to 2009.
Yeah.
Yep.
Since then, no one talks about it, but since then, Mercedes-Benz interiors have become the gold standard again. It is amazing how little they show wear. This is a 10-year-old car with 100,000 miles, and even in the front,
And the
it's
driver's seat.
amazing to me how little Mercedes-Benz interior they wear.
The pattern helps a lot.
The pattern helps, but like this,
It looks good.
Dude, you
Like,
get into a 100,000 mile Chevy Tahoe, you got 7 holes in the seats, and foam is coming out to a level where you're worried that your dog is going to find it and eat it.
I do totally get that. So like, I'm used to E63 sedans and S63 AMG sedans being valueless after a while. But this is a V12 and it's worth less than a much less unique, much less rare wagon.
It is funny. The V12s, even though they're very special, they don't hold their value.
Like it should.
with the exception of like
should.
the G65. The G65.
A couple of the V12s and like the Paganis and all. Some of the cars with this motor.
Yeah.
All right.
My point being like the Black Series. Some of the cars with this motor do hold their value, but it is interesting, given those exist, that you can buy the same motor for not much money. And people are going to say, well, it's unreliable. Well, it's probably unreliable in the SL65 Black Series too. I mean, it's the same engine.
I wouldn't say that the engine.
But those are 350 grand.
I would say the engine's unreliable. I mean, this one, I've seen. I mean, this engine's been in production for a really long time.
And
It's
they
the
get
same
miles. They get
Bi-turbo
miles.
V12. Yeah, and clearly good miles. I think that other components on the car might become questionable.
Well,
It's complicated.
shout out to the owner for selling it just before 100K, 99.8. I gotta let it go.
And it does say that
There's a rule, clearly.
The panoramic roof is broken.
Panoramic cruise broke.
But, like,
Go to the
whatever.
flaws. Go to the flaws.
They're not otherwise not that insane.
Yeah,
a
chip
couple of
scratches,
accidents.
Needs tires.
And they got it inspected.
2 minors on the Carfax, not a big deal.
I mean, but this is not unique. If you go back out to the results, we've had other S65s in the same price point.
yeah,
legitimately.
Yeah,
Like, this is just what they're worth.
How many miles were
Wow,
on
this
that
one
one?
looks nice.
How many miles were on that one? That's a nice
90,000.
90,000
This is just
in
what they're
North
worth,
Carolina.
and I find that to be insane.
So there is a floor.
You know which one I really wanted? I begged the guys to take this. We thought the reserve was too high, and it was. It didn't sell. This blue color is the coolest thing in the world. Don't you think? An S65 is cool,
They're
but then
all black.
They're
Or
all black, silver, white.
Yep.
having one that's actually a special color, going past someone at 200 miles an hour in blue, that's like, I got a lot of money and I don't care.
This is like Nick Roshan should have bought this car.
Yeah, he's afraid of it though.
Right.
I agree. Those are surprisingly cheap. This is a 221, but your point is about 222s and you're right. Okay, Kennan, you got a market report for us?
Yes. We've sold a number of very interesting manual transmission cars recently. We sold a great V-12 Vantage 6-speed, which was rare and very special. But this one, this is incredibly unusual. So this is as I always forget the chassis of this. It's F13
is a
F13, I think, is the convertible.
F12 is a coupe.
Thank you. I knew it was. Yeah, I knew.
Okay, some of us know BMWs.
You got me there.
He didn't come on the camera, but he winked.
Oh, he winked.
Wrong, wrong direction.
The credibility is gone with the wink. It's just odd. But anyway, most people, including you, did not realize that these are available with a 6-speed manual transmission. Only for the North American market, though. And
I really thought they didn't offer these with stick. I mean, I knew by the time, it was years ago we had the conversation, but I was astonished.
Yes, they are exceedingly rare. And the fact that this one is a color with a 6-speed.
With a good interior.
And it's a convertible. I know people want coupes, and the sedan was also, the M6 Grand Coupe sedan was also available with stick. I know people want the sedan or the coupe, but like, in SoCal, we want a convertible, and you will never find another M6 convertible with a stick, ever.
Boy, did the people who bid on this car knew that. And it sold for 42, which most of these cars now are probably, I guess, selling in the,
what's a
12 and like.
No, what's a tip? Look it up. What's an M6
12, 13. So let's see. I mean,
we sell a lot of the V10s, but
we sell an awful lot of the V10s.
Oh, this was also a manual, but it was a coupe.
We don't sell that many it turns out.
Here's a Grand Coupe that sold for only 22, and that's the most desirable body style. So here's one that
convertible for 20. So they're worth 20.
So they're worth, so the stick doubles the value of the car.
One for 25. Yeah. So doubles the value.
What was the mileage on the blue one?
It was 51,000. So like not low necessarily, but
so cool.
It's just everybody tells me it's like, oh, the DCT is so much better. I mean, it's true. BMW designed this car to work with the DCT, no question. But the fact that these exist, everybody knew it would help hold its value, and boy, is that evident. And what a cool car you end up with. You get to row your own in the crazy.
And this is a car that I think a lot of people truly would not think exists. I think most people think that by the time these M cars came out, like these, it was gone. But there were M6s, there were M5s, F10 M5s. They did it. And they come up very occasionally on cars.
They bring the money.
And they bring the money.
Admittedly, this is because I knew it existed. Every time I see it, I still walk by and look in the window and go,
and it's never,
But if I looked in it and saw a stick,
to be clear, I actually like the automatics a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's great.
It fits the car, but this is cooler.
But this is, exceptionally cool.
Okay, we got to move on to questions. Now, questions are sponsored by Kennan. And Kennan, personally, he wrote us a check. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Kennan is going to make a personal appearance in public this weekend at the San Diego Cars and Coffee at Elite Finish. I want to say more like the location and the time. I don't have time. We got to move on to questions. But Kennan will be there.
I will say hi
to him. Come chat about his M5.
Yes, I don't bite. My M5 will be there too.
Okay, first question from Joey12. Joey12. Doug, you said your cars are no longer at the Cars and Bids headquarters. They're at your new garage at your house. Can we get a video of the new garage? No, I don't do personal. I don't need people coming by. Let me tell you, I've watched enough Stradman content to know you don't want to film anything at your house. Because Stradman says people come by every single day.
That's a lot.
Go by Kennan's house.
No.
It's great stuff over there. There's great stuff over there. Okay. Next question. Question for everyone. What is a car that absolutely, this is from Kennan's side piece, by the way.
Sorry, Emily.
Question for everyone. What is a car that absolutely deserves the hate, and what are some cars that are under-hated, that should be hated more?
Most McLarens?
The Pontiac Aztek should not be hated.
Should be hated more.
I
should not be hated.
Kind of become beloved in a weird way.
I do appreciate that it has. Thank you to Autopian for helping do that.
Well, and Brad Wood, for honest.
Yeah. And Doug with that review.
And Doug.
What are other cars? People hate the PT Cruiser. Do we think that's over or underhated?
It's simultaneously underhated and overhated.
Yeah, it's ironic.
If you hate it, I don't agree with that you're hating it too much. If you're ambivalent about it, you might not hate it enough.
What about Tesla? Everybody likes to hate Tesla these days. What do we think about that?
It's an interesting thing. Since things have changed politically and Elon Musk has become a little more involved, I've seen a lot of, I bought this car before Elon.
Everybody has one of those bumper stickers in California now.
That's like, you knew.
I've seen hundreds of those bumper stickers. Nick put one on his Bentley.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, well, that's Nicky.
You know what? You know what car I think is overhated? Two of them are right here in the office.
A Prius.
The 04 Prius, I think, is overhated. It was a tremendous car.
Why does anybody hate that car?
It is a tremendous car. It was great in so many ways.
I think that regular people love it.
I'll tell you why. It was because it was thrust upon us as this.
Thrust upon us by what? A company trying to sell cars? What do you
Every
want?
celebrity in Hollywood had one to
Sorry, did the US
virtue
government
signal
say
that they
you
cared.
must buy this car? No, of course not.
Every celebrity had one
it's
to
not
virtue
Tesla.
signal and went and in doing, but then they went and drove around in their Bentleys instead. That car was taken. It was shoved down.
By
our throat.
who?
How?
Why?
I mean, everybody.
No, I agree. Hollywood made a thing of it.
Right.
Okay.
It was just seen as a weak, like little car, and and people hated it, and
And
it was an
looked
easy
like
car
car enthusiasm was going to start to die out. Yeah.
Exactly. It was the signal
However,
of things to come.
20 years later, we know that's not true. Car enthusiasm is flourishing, and that car
actually a great
is such an amazing practical car that you can get for $6,000 as long as you can keep the catalytic converter in it.
Yeah, you might want to lock that one
If you
up.
live in San Francisco, good luck to you.
I disagree with literally everything you've said about the Prius, except for the fact that it is, regardless of how much you hate it too much.
I don't hate it personally. Like
I like it, love it.
It was a great car for the people. You know,
Actually-
one of the things that annoys me about car enthusiasts is that they hate on cars that they're not even intended for. You know, I talked my parents into a Lexus RX. Car enthusiasts hate that car. Fine, but my parents aren't car. It's not who it's for, and it's actually a great car for a lot of people. And that's true of the Prius. Plus, you can camp in them.
What's the second car? The
Juke.
Oh, the Juke.
The Nissan Juke was hated so greatly. In fact, it was hated. This is one time where people screwed, and this has happened a few times where people have been so hateful that they screwed over themselves.
Yeah.
They hated the Juke. The Juke's the stupidest, ugliest, idiotic, stupid, hideous,
But at
ridiculous
least it was
car.
interesting.
And then you know what Nissan did after that? They came out with boring trash because they were so put off by the fact that everybody hated their cool design. They were like, fine, we're going to give you the kicks. Pull up a picture of the kicks.
Don't spare us all.
Look, trash.
They did
boring, bad trash.
They
The Juke was
overcorrected.
interesting.
They overcorrected, but it is a heinous car that looks like a bug that needs to be squashed.
It's cool.
It's
both of those
hideous.
things, the second part of what you said is true about how it looks. The second part, it's
Offensively
not
bad.
hideous as a result.
It's offensive.
The interior is, but
And it's built like absolute
Well, that's all
garbage.
true.
It is a terrible car.
Wow,
that
Kennan is not
I'm
coming
a
out
hater.
pro
I've
car
hated
for
it
that.
since it came out. I hate it now. And I will
But
hate it
this
forever.
is what happens. People hate on cars like
Yeah, but
the
then-
Aztec, like the Juke, where an
but then
automaker
don't-
takes a risk, and then the automaker says, okay, fine, everybody hates our risk. We're going to go back to making square box boring crap.
Well, no,
and then they do. And that's how you end up with the Nissan kicks. And by the way, drive around. There's rogues everywhere. There's kicks everywhere. You ruined us. You ruined our lives.
Nah, there were
They
some
made the R35 at the same time. Like they could have gone down a different path. They also had Infiniti to draw from. Infiniti made great looking cars throughout that period of time. Do something more like that. Don't just because
But
it was
cheap.
hate.
Cheap cars should be weird.
No,
You're not
they
trying
can
to make
be
cheap cars
good
beautiful. There is
Yes,
no
you
such thing
can.
as a beautiful cheap car. It has never happened.
No such
Fact
thing as
check
a
me.
beautiful cheap car. No such thing as a
There's so
beautiful
many
cheap car.
beautiful
There's
cheap cars.
so many beautiful cheap cars.
Name two.
the Fiat Panda.
That is one.
Thank you.
Okay, well,
But it's not beautiful. Like
Well,
that's
any
the
of,
thing.
the, any of the Fords from the Aston Martin looking look
But
great.
those cars, the few, I mean, those cars are more expensive. The Juke is an entry-level little subcompact thing that was trying to mobilize like 23-year-olds in their first job, and they wanted it to be cool and quirky and cute, like the Cube, honestly. And then people complain and complain, and so what Nissan ends up doing is giving us the Sentra and the Kicks and the Rogue Sport. The Rogue Sport is one of the great bad
Actually, a
things
pretty good
foisted upon human beings.
But a pretty good looking car.
It is terrible.
But it's a pretty good
It
looking car.
is horrible.
But it's a pretty good looking car.
You get my point. Cars, you want to know overhated cars? Anything that was trying to be cool and weird that people hated into oblivion and then we got replaced with boring stuff. Those cars are
The
overhated.
Fiat Multipla redesign.
Fiat Multipla.
The redesign,
Fiat
that's a
Multipla is
good
the
point.
best example of all time.
Quirky, people say they don't like it, though they buy it, and then you have.
And then you get the redesign, which screwed up everything about the original that we love, that platypus mofo.
Yep.
Okay, next up, some great questions this week. We're going to do a few more, maybe three more. From AB6002. Hey, Doug, any update on the V8 Cygnet? You want to tell the story?
Yes. So we talked about it recently. You explored it with Nick that the Aston Martin V8. There was a Cygnet that was produced by Aston Martin for one customer, and they used an Aston Martin V8 Vantage. Was it full chassis?
Just the V8, no, just the motor.
Just the engine. Unbelievable. They built one car for us.
Built one,
the
et
guy
cetera,
paid
came
it
up for sale. So
Well,
tell the story about what happened.
you have said if this car ever came up for sale, you would purchase it.
Oh, I would want to, and I do want to.
And you do want it. Well,
Somebody
so
else
do other
does.
people.
Yeah.
It transacted instantly.
Gone.
Which is not a surprise.
Sold in 30 seconds, apparently for full ask, which was about 600,000 United States dollars.
Which, yeah, it's a lot for a
And to be honest, I think it's cool as hell. I think it might honestly be worth 600. I'm in a position right now where I'm not necessarily trying to spend that on another car. I've got a lot of expensive cars.
Plus,
the real problem would have, and I'm off cars, except of course for one of those in Earth.
oh my God.
Not
If
in
that
caviar.
one, if that one wasn't finished in caviar or perhaps nori,
That
we don't
wasn't
know.
Finished in nori, obviously.
I would just keep it.
Obviously.
Also, for your uses, a normal Cygnet probably would cover it.
The problem also was that importing it, I think, for someone who's off cars, going through that process would have been really annoying.
Really agitating.
Next question from Nick Whitney 0. Doug, as you love the cross-country drive, would you ever do a Cannonball run? No. I abide by the laws. There was a time when I thought that would be cool, but it is long past.
Can I answer a question that's in here that you're not going to answer?
Which question is
There's
it?
a question from Minnesota Joe, which is, why does the Cars and Bids app
Oh,
rain
yeah,
money
no, I
when
was going to do
shake
that.
my phone?
Why
For
does the Cars
fun.
and Bids app rain money when I shake my phone?
Did you know it does?
No!
It does this.
It's great.
It's the best.
Folks, the Cars and Bids app is so cool that if you shake your phone, it rains money. Do it. Oh, it's raining money. It's raining money.
If you shake your phone a bunch, it will eventually try to
Why
send
does
a
it
bug
do
report.
this? Because we have a sense of humor?
Yeah.
You know what? I bet this is the kind of thing people are going to complain about, and then we're going to take it out and
Nobody
come
has
out
ever
with at least
complained
some
about
rogue
it. It
sport.
works beautifully.
It does work.
It's fun, and it sometimes it pops up when you don't expect it, which is
It does.
extra fun. Like, in that, like you like shook your phone but didn't think
I dropped my phone
about
the
it,
other day.
and it's so fun, and I love it.
I don't usually shake my phone. I've never experienced this in my life. I can't wait to try it. The Cars and Bids app, to download it, you go to... No, I'm sorry, we have to move on.
Shout out to our designer and mobile engineer, Brian and Z, respectively, who did a great job building it.
Shouting out individual people. I want to shout out to my mom. No, let's do one more question or perhaps two. Oh, from Palagi. Doug, you don't review the new Tesla Model Y Juniper because you don't like Elon anymore? Dude, is this even out?
Not in the U.S. yet.
No, I haven't reviewed it because it's not available. The car's being sold in China, and the dude's like, why aren't you reviewing it? You hate Elon?
Jay Leno, I think, may have gotten one. I don't know. Or like to review. I think there's a couple of loaners floating around, barely.
What happens
They're
soon?
not
Be
out for
patient.
sale yet.
Jay gets all the good stuff. No, I'll do it. I'll do it.
By the way, Tesla has massively lowered existing Model Y prices or increased.
Did you
incentives,
see
rather.
that? I went on the Model Y configurator the other day to compare it against that Audi Q6 that I have right now, and the prices are wild. The old Model Y you can buy, it's like 20 grand less than the new Model Y.
They want to clear out all inventory before the new one comes.
I will say,
which is in the next month and a half. by the way.
The dealer, the non-dealer situation, allowing them to kind of mess with prices like in real time is a pretty good situation.
At the same time, it makes it so public when you do so. which is
And
not
frustrating for people who paid more 5 months ago.
bad. Or yesterday.
Okay, I want to do maybe either two more questions or one more
Good one.
slow one. Too fast, one slow. AB6002, question for Doug and Kennan. Is modern Ferrari's biggest competition coming from within its own legacy? Many enthusiasts seem to prefer Ferrari models from the last 2 decades. Do you think modern Ferraris will ever be able to capture the magic of their predecessors? My answer to this question is no. I think if you look at the people who are buying new Ferraris, they don't even know what the old Ferraris are. I drive around my Carrera GT all the time, and people in new Porsches don't even notice it. And I think that happens. Like if you asked 98% of new Ferrari owners to name the supercars, they couldn't. Like I think that there are some people who could afford new Ferraris who are buying old ones. Certainly there are some.
Yeah, and
but I
certainly
think the vast majority that is not the case.
Right. And certainly there are young enthusiasts who are buying them and do know about the older cars. But no, I totally agree with that. I think it's coming from McLaren and other manufacturers, and Porsche probably, and other manufacturers more so than from within the back catalog.
And just buying more crypto.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, last question. This one's for me and Filippo from Big Skier Guy. What version of the GMT 800 would you buy? And there's a correct
There's
answer
a
to
correct
this,
answer.
Filippo. Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
We're aligned.
We're aligned. Would you buy if you had to purchase a brand new one off the lot? The GMT 800, for those of you who don't know, was the General Motors truck and SUV platform from 99 to 05, 06. 06.
06.
GMT 800,
Yeah.
largely bad vehicles that run forever.
No, great vehicles that also run forever.
No, but I mean, they had bad interiors, they had giant panel gaps, but they are tremendously durable mofos.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a single one of these that isn't on the road with 964,000 miles.
I suspect I know what the answer is to this.
You sure do.
The answer is, okay, what are you going to say? Let's say it on what? 3, 2, 1. Suburban
Quadra
Quadra Steer.
Yep. There it is.
Yep, that's it.
Yep.
That's it right there.
2500.
There's a lot of great GMT 800 vehicles. You know what I was going to say?
Z71 Suburban, I would also accept.
Z71 Bird
Which we
is up
had
there.
one, and I loved it.
You know
and
what?
I stared at it.
You know one that you're not ever going to think of? The Anteater front Suburban that was only sold in Mexico. Kennan, pull it up.
God
Type
to you.
in Mexico GMT 800 Suburban. I bet it shows up. I saw one on the street here in San Diego like 3 years ago. Took a picture of it. It was incredible for me. So they offered these. Did you know about this?
From that gen Silverado. the next gen Silverado.
So the Silverado in the U.S. was facelifted to have this front end. That's my picture. I took that picture. the Silverado was facelifted in the U.S. It's too grainy though. Pull out to a different one. The Silverado was facelifted in the U.S. in like 2004 to have this front end, but for God knows what reason, because it's GM. No, it's none of these. It's only a couple. It's this one. It's the red one. For some reason, they didn't facelift the Suburban in the U.S. But in Mexico and apparently Latin America, because that looks like Costa Rica, they did.
Oh, it's so much worse.
It's worse, but it would be so cool. I would flex on you so hard if I had that.
A quadra steer with the four-wheel steering, 2500, 8.1 liter V8 would be great.
That's
Suburban.
the answer.
The regular Suburban Z71
That's the second
also
answer.
looks so good.
Or Tahoe, honestly, a good Tahoe.
That's a good Tahoe.
And
God, look at that car.
I know, dude. When I was a kid, that was the coolest thing in the world. But the Anteater, go back to the Anteater.
we're
I want
done.
to see it again, or the cat eye they call
I
it.
closed out of it already.
You closed this beautiful vehicle. Look at this.
Thank you for watching this week's podcast. It's certainly our best ever.
Dude, there
except
are
for the
GMT
Anteater.
800 fans who are sitting here going, I didn't even know they made that. Yeah, they did. And if I had one, I would flex on Filippo. I would show up in the office. I'd honk the horn. I would flash the halogen running lights.
Halogens.
Unfortunately, you would be too ugly for you to look at, so you wouldn't drive it.
It's not an attractive car. I actually think the pickups were pretty attractive with the front end.
It works on the pickups for sure.
They looked at this and they said, you know, this works on the pickups. It doesn't really work on the
rest.
SUV. Let's give it to Costa Rica.
The regular GT 800 is such a beautiful classic automobile.
Although I prefer the previous gen, which was the GMT 400.
Good gen, you're wrong.
This was definitely a better vehicle in every way. Okay, that's the answer to our questions. All of our questions.
All of them.
All
That's
of
it.
them.
We're
the
done.
most important ones. Kennan, any parting thoughts?
It's our 52nd podcast.
This is our 52nd podcast. We've been podcasting for a year, and you want to know something? This was our best episode yet. Goodbye, everyone.
I got to talk about EVs.
I got to talk about it.